Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen regular meeting of November 9th, 2022. It's now 5 o'clock. Just thank everyone for wearing masks in the interest of safety, and we're keeping each other safe. On the agenda this evening, number one is the Amity Robotic Team presentation, and perhaps folks that are presenting I have Stillman Jordan. That's you, yeah. And if you want to introduce anyone that is presenting or joining us, that would be great. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for having us here tonight. First Lego League, it's called FLL for short. You'll hear the kids use the acronym. It's really, you think of it as like a club. It's a competition where it's part science fair, part robotics clubs. We see a robot there. It's really about being creative and scientific. They have part of the club is designing robots that accomplish missions on a board. So the kids are challenged by building robots, programming them to accomplish missions on a board, and score points. Their competition is actually in a week and a half. So part of it is robotics, but another part is they have to, each year there's a theme, and they have to do a science project basically on that theme. And this year the theme was sustainable energy, renewable energy. And so the team was really challenged, spent the last 4 months coming up with different ways to solve this renewable energy problem. And you'll hear them, they're gonna come and talk about it, but they also, FLL tries to have a portion of, inclusion and community-based. And so the team was really challenged to find a problem in our community here and come up with a unique way to solve it. And that's what they want to talk about tonight. So the way this typically works is the kids produce a skit. It's about a 5-6 minute skit where they educate you on their ideas. It's designed to be a little silly, but they're going to talk about their idea for energy sustainability and walk you through a little bit of their concepts. We're still in the final phases of our practice. So you're going to have Marcia. She's going to be there to help a little bit if the kids stumble. So there you go. We're still working on it because competition day is a week and a half. But you'll hear that this does impact our community. And part of this is sharing the idea with experts. And in our town, you are experts when it comes to the community. And so they're going to do their little spiel at the end. If you have any questions, they pepper them if you'd like to. And then also, they also would like some feedback. If there's something that you find that they should know that would make their project better, because it is community-based, they would like to hear that.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, the kids are going to introduce themselves.
Okay.
With that, I'm going to give over the floor to them. Did I forget anything, Henry?
No, that's the thing.
All right. And this last thing, these are all Beecher Road School students. So they're all Beecher. Everybody here, the club is all Woodbridge, except for my daughter, Daphne, who's a middle schooler at Bethany Middle.
Yeah, I saw Amity team and I thought, boy, these kids look awfully young for Amity.
They're all
I'm old now, so everybody looks young.
Well, I think that's one of the impressive things about the club. That's why we spend a lot of time as parents to do it. It
Sure.
teaches them programming, engineering, design. It's pretty impressive club.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to get out of the way and let the
Wonderful.
kids take it away. Go ahead,
Thank
kiddos.
you.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm playing a police officer. Sorry for the costumes. We didn't have a lot of time.
I'm Mason, and I'm going to play the dad.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm going to be playing the little boy.
Hi, I'm Daphne, and I'm going to be playing the mayor.
Hi, I'm Ella, and I'm going to be playing an FLL kid.
Hi, I'm Lucy, and I'm going to be playing an FLL kid.
Hi, I'm Carissa, and I'm also going to be playing an FLL kid. All the characters in this skit are completely fictional, so don't be offended. Just say that.
Just letting you know.
Why are we here at Town Hall, officer?
You were speeding on Johnson Road. Now you're going to have to explain yourself to the judge. There's also a renewable energy hearing going on. It's a little crowded.
I couldn't see the sign.
still speeding. But fine, tell me.
It was dark out because it's night, and that's how night works.
And I was looking for the sign, and all of a sudden, the sign I was looking for was bent over the hood of my car.
Hi, I cannot help but overhear your conversation. I am the mayor of Woodbridge, and we also have a hearing going on about renewable energy, but you also reminded me that we also have a speeding problem. How will we ever get through this?
Luckily, we have a solution.
Oh look, it's the FLL kids who brought their cute little project. They think they know everything.
Yes, we are the Speedy Snakes, and we love explosions.
Just kidding, we believe we have an answer to your problems.
What's this?
This is an energy-producing speed table. It produces renewable energy and slows down traffic.
You want to put this witchcraft in my town?
Yes, please let us introduce you to the sorcery of science. How does it work?
First, the car comes up to the speed table. While going over it, it pushes down and it explodes. Oops, just kidding. Then, it pushes down on the top part, leading to spin the top part, which also spins the bottom part.
It uses gears, flywheels, a clutch, and a generator.
How much energy would a speed table like that make?
We did the math. Each car will generate 560 watt-hours per day.
What would we use the electricity for?
We believe we have an answer for you.
Proceed, kid. Ha, that rhymes!
We decided as a team that we would power lights around the area so people could see the speed limit sign.
So we're hitting two birds with one stone?
Exactly!
What will we have enough energy for it though?
You know it. Each light uses 15 watts. We want to power 4 lights for 10 hours each day. Our speed bump will be able to power 4 lights for 10 hours each day.
Where did you little kids get all this information?
We consulted a variety of sources in our initial research.
This all sounds promising, but in high school science, I learned that not all sources are reliable. You need your research checked by experts. Did you do that?
Yes. We spoke with a traffic engineer, a mechanical engineer, and an energy engineer. We also shared our project with the town board of selectmen, our fellow Woodbridge FLL team, and our local police.
Yes, that's me. Well, the police agree that there's a lot of speeding on Johnson Road. Too much. There's actually not that many accidents. On the other hand, there are a lot of families on the road. Kids want to play on the road, bad idea kids. And families are concerned about the safety of their children. So this is a really good idea.
And you are correct. The experts did suggest some modifications to our design.
Like adding a clutch, using a speed table instead of a speed bump, and instead of using flashing warning lights, using lights to illuminate the sign.
What are the dimensions of a speed table like that? What does it look like?
The dimensions to our speed table are 22 by 12 feet, with a slope of 2.4 degrees. This allows vehicles to drive over our speed table at 45 miles per hour. The speed limit on Johnson Road is 35 miles per hour.
Pretty smart.
Wow, you guys are so smart. How did you guys come up with that?
We looked for a way to bring renewable energy to Woodbridge. We went to the Connecticut Science Center to brainstorm ideas.
There we noticed lots of ways to use renewable energy. We noticed the manual power generator shown on our poster.
We started research and came up with many ideas. We narrowed it down to 2 finalists: a bike that powered a freezer and a power generating speed table.
One of the kids on our team lives on Johnson Road and mentioned that the cars drive really fast on his road. We thought that this project could make an actual difference in our town.
Alright, this all sounds cool. But how did you get all this done in time for the town meeting?
We had a plan. We set dates back from the date of the hearing to reach small goals.
It's absolute sorcery!
It's the sorcery of science. Thank you for listening to the Speedy Snakes today.
Great. anyone from the board have any questions? I thought that was fantastic. You guys are going to win. I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question for you. Is this a speed table you'd like us to actually consider building in Woodbridge?
Yeah.
Sure. I guess it was made to be able, or it was made to be a project, but the projects kind of are supposed to be something that you could build in real life.
Yeah.
So this,
You could put it in our town.
yeah,
If you wanted to.
if you wanted to.
We wanted to have an idea that could theoretically make a difference in our town.
I have a question. Is this actually being done in any town? In any state,
Speed
anywhere?
tables
Any
are
country?
being used, but
Not that much.
yeah, they're not very
So
common.
are, power makers.
Yes, they are. They
Yeah,
have
they're
been.
they are like an actual thing.
They are being used, like Lucy said, but none are kind of like ours.
Yeah, they're not in our town.
Kind of an
No, not
original.
ours.
Anyone else? Well, thank you all so much. Very good job. Thank you. Good luck. Let us know how you do. Good job.
It's too cute.
Cute.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you for
Let us know
coming.
how you make out.
We will.
We'll be rooting for you.
I'm glad they warned you, Beth, that it was just parody.
Yep. Speedy snakes.
The Speedy Snake.
That's not a name the adults came up with. Nobody's gonna suspect us of that name.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
see that. Take care, Irene. Is that Christine?
Yes.
Yeah. I see you back there with your mask. Hello. Item 2 on our agenda is the Woodbridge Board of Education. I will introduce Interim Superintendent Christine Syriac. You can bring a chair up to the table and the mic. I think it's still on, is it?
There's a chair.
The rolling.
Oh.
The more comfy chair?
Yeah,
I'll
whatever
punish
you like.
myself for a minute.
Okay. I hope the mic is on. Not sure.
It has a red dot, so
Yeah.
what, that means it's on?
That means it's on. Yeah, we're getting a thumbs up from the back of the room.
Okay, great.
Okay, welcome in person. Hello.
Thank you, my first meeting in person. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the times you have had me present at your meetings. I appreciate the time. I just wanted to give you a brief update on a couple of items this evening. One is that currently, I know I spoke at the last time I was at a meeting about the enrollment, and I just wanted you to know that currently our enrollment for this year remains the same at 850 students. However, it's not always the same 850 students. Sometimes some students move in and some students transfer out. And the reason why I want to preface that is because we have encountered some unbudgeted expenses for the 23-24 school year. It's something that we will be discussing at our Board of Education Finance meeting on Monday evening, the 14th. But we have had one out of district placement special education student recently move into the district that was not budgeted for this current school year. We believe that potentially within the next week we will have a second outplaced student who is joining us. And in addition to that, due to some increase in students, we had to add an additional special education bus to our bus routes this year. So those are 3 items in regard to special education that have impacted our budget. I will keep you informed moving forward in regard to where we are with that and what we are able to do to address those particular increases within our existing budget, as well as within some funds that we received from Open Choice. However, because Open Choice did not pay in a timely manner, the funds have gone to the town, and based on the meeting Monday evening, we may be making a request for some of those funds in order to offset some of those costs that were not budgeted. The Director of Business and Operations and I have begun to draft the budget for the 23-24 school year. It always seems to be budget season. So we have begun to draft that budget. We have not as yet presented that to the Board of Education Finance Committee, but we will be doing that during the month of November and early December. And it would be my intention to present the superintendent's recommended budget to the full board at the December meeting in anticipation of then being ready to present it to the town sometime in January or February. I also wanted to share with you that the Board of Education is in the process of finalizing the selection for the permanent superintendent, and I believe it is their intention to have a special Board of Education meeting next week, at which time they will make the appointment of the new superintendent, and I believe that the timeline for that will most likely be that that person will start towards the end of December. And then I just wanted to share with you that while school at Beecher Road School is in session on Veterans Day, we do have a formal program planned for the entire school. So the entire school will attend assembly. We will have some veterans who we have invited to talk to our students and our staff, as well as our students are very actively engaged in planning some of the conversation and discussion that will happen on that day at that meeting. And then throughout the day, there will be instruction related to Veterans Day throughout the classes, throughout the school. So that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Christine?
I do have one question. If you could kind of outline for us or refresh our memory, when a student moves in who has identified special needs from another district, does any of the money come along with the student at this point?
No, it does not.
Okay.
The only time that that may occur is if the student didn't actually, if they had a nexus of another district, right? So maybe it was a student who was foster placed or something of that nature, but the town was here. In the case of the particular two individuals that I'm sharing with, that would not be the case.
Okay.
So it's very rare that
Okay.
they come with any funds.
So wherever they were, they may have had funding for their education in this budget, but now it's not going to be expended and we have new.
So correct. So
expenditures.
certainly that Board of Education is probably saying, well, that's nice, but what we never know is, you don't want to say that loudly because you could have a student register tomorrow who, comes with a higher price tag. So,
I see.
But yes, sometimes I might come back to a board and say, we budgeted this money and we didn't need to use it. And other times we did not budget for any of this.
All right, thank you.
Sheila.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One question. Doesn't the state provide some money for special ed for us?
So there is what they call the excess cost grant. So what we do is we calculate out, and if I'm just going to use very generic numbers, if we were spending $10,000 on each of our students to educate them, when we reach 4 times that expenditure, then we can ask for those funds to be reimbursed. So at that point, so when we reach the threshold of $50,000, we'd be able to ask for $10,000 of that to be replaced. The state has traditionally, after they get all the requests from all the districts, been funding that at around 60 or 70%. And that money, I believe, and Tony can correct me if I'm wrong, goes again to the town. And if for some reason we were to need some of that money, we would make a request to the town to help offset our costs. And I believe you very generously, or the Board of Finance very generously last year, did help the Board of Education in that area. So yes, we will try to recapture some of the money. Unfortunately, it's a high threshold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good evening.
Item 3 on the agenda is the first selectman's remarks, and I will read them. Again, good evening and welcome to the November 9th regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Once again, thank you all for wearing masks tonight as we endeavor to continue to respect each other and to try to keep one another healthy, especially those who are immunocompromised or recovering from an illness. We have air filters running and ventilation from a few open windows. I don't think that we opened them, but whoops. Anybody want to take it? Thank you. Last month, I gave you all an update on our many ongoing town projects. The Community and Cultural Center project, which includes improvements to the surrounding outdoor grounds at the library, the center, the Grove, and the old firehouse, is moving forward, as are the senior center upgrades and renovations. I invite board members to attend a meeting of the Community Cultural Center Committee on Wednesday, November 16th at 4 o'clock here at Town Hall, where committee members will receive input from department heads on suggested uses of both indoor and outdoor spaces. As a reminder, this new center will be in the old firehouse. As I mentioned last month, Woodbridge Like Me Day was a huge, largely attended, successful event last month. This event and others are sponsored by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I will be speaking further about the history of this committee before they give us a presentation in a few minutes. They're seated in the back. Due to the popularity of this ad hoc group, I am appointing another member, Javier Aviles, who will be a welcome addition. Our annual Veterans Day ceremony will be held this year after a 2-year COVID hiatus at 11 o'clock on Friday, November 11th in the Center Gym, the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month. Masks will be required, and in the interest of safety, the doors will be open, so we're asking folks to dress warmly. Everyone is invited to join this beautiful and moving ceremony. U.S. Army Captain and Vietnam War veteran Dr. Barry Josephs will once again be the Master of Ceremonies. Everyone is invited to join us. As I mentioned at our last meeting, there may be a Regional Water Authority grant available for up to $5,000 to add a water line for use by the community garden folks. Tony and I met with Tara and Andy Stack and community garden volunteer coordinators and representatives from the Regional Water Authority last week at the gardens to explore this further. There are several ways to accomplish this, and if it happens, it will also follow the same procedures we used for water at the dog park, where the community garden members pay the water bills directly and are responsible for the water spigot, etc. These folks are now exploring ways this might be done, and as I find out more, I will let you all know. You have in your packet several letters from residents expressing their support for getting the Beecher Road School pool up and running as soon as possible, beginning with the first step of replacing filters and piping, which could keep the pool functioning for a few years. The pool was built in 1972. We will discuss how the board wants to address this later on our agenda this evening. Here we go, Tony, again. Once again, I'm pleased to announce that we have been notified that our annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year, which ended on June 30th, 2022, has once again qualified for the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This award is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. I know this is awarded every year to Woodbridge because we do this so well, but let us take a moment to thank our esteemed Finance Director, Tony Genovese, our Finance Department members, and our Board of Finance. This is truly a significant accomplishment, and we are all so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our police officers and dispatchers will be participating in the annual No Shave Connecticut fundraiser, in which they're permitted to grow beards during the month of November to support cancer prevention, research, and education. And again this year, it is being conducted in conjunction with the Connecticut Cancer Foundation, with all proceeds to benefit Connecticut cancer patients. On December 3rd, the Woodbridge Police Department will be conducting the annual Stuff a Cruiser Holiday Toys Drive in the DeAndrea's Plaza parking lot from 9 to 3 to benefit the Connecticut Special Olympics and the Toys for Tots program. The event will be held in conjunction with Starbucks, Katz's Deli, and Micro Creamery, and donations of new unwrapped toys will be accepted. The Woodbridge Police Department has joined agencies from across the state in developing memorial decals on their patrol vehicles in memory and honor of the service and sacrifice of their fallen law officer enforcement brothers, Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte and Sergeant Alex Hansey of the Bristol Police Department, and this is what it looks like, if anyone's interested. They're on the police cars in Woodbridge. And lastly, at this time of Thanksgiving, I want to express my appreciation for all of you working with the town employees and meeting with so many residents over the past year has been a wonderful opportunity, and I am truly grateful, thankful, and so blessed to be your first selectman. Wishing everyone here, your friends and family, and everyone in TV land a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. And with that, we will go to item 4. And I have a little introduction before you guys come up. Thank you. This is the presentation from our ad hoc Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, Ellen Skeletar and Tahira Parvez, our chair and co-chair. No, vice chair? Okay. Thank you. If you recall, I created our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee in 2020 in response to the horrific events surrounding the tragic murder of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis police. Many of us watched in anguish of the systemic racism, particularly the pattern of needless and senseless acts of violence that also took the lives of so many people. I look back at my remarks prior to that day in Woodbridge when we held a Black Lives Matter rally. That day I said, quote, "I think we have reason to hope that things will change. There is a new burst of energy, a protest movement across the country and beyond our shores, in cities and towns in all 50 states, a movement that crosses racial, ethnic, and political and generational differences, a movement that binds us together by our common humanity, a movement poised to inspire new policies and new legislation." That day I quoted Martin Luther King, who said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." I think Dr. King believed that the arc doesn't bend toward justice on its own. That's our responsibility, and that's why we are here today. I am so proud that our DEI committee continues this movement toward justice. I thank everyone and every member of this most important group for their efforts on behalf of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I will now introduce Chair Ellen Skeletar and Vice Chair Tahira Parvez and ask them to introduce the members that are here, as well as those who could not attend this evening. Thank you. The floor is yours. Hi, Bettina. Nice to see you in person. Welcome. Wow, 2 years.
Good evening. Thank you, First Selectman Heller, for that introduction. Good evening to the board members, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Genovese. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight and to update you on what our committee has been doing. We so appreciate, Beth, that you created the committee and you have appointed an extraordinary group of people. We've been working together so well and building our strength over these 2 years. We welcome our new member, Javier Aviles. And what we'd like to do tonight is tell you what we've been doing over these past 2 years, where we stand now. Tahira Parvez, our vice chair, is going to introduce the members and tell you about what we've been doing, followed by Stephen Lawrence, who has a report on our most recent activity.
Thank you. I'm Tahira Parvez. I'm the vice chair of the committee, and with us today our other members, Laura, Stephen, and our newest member, Javier, along with some other just fabulous members that couldn't join us this evening. Before I get into what we've been working on so far, I want to say thank you to Beth and thank you to Ellen for leading this charge. This group, we are a dynamic, diverse group. We are different genders, different races, ethnicities, lifestyles, and it is everything that is good about Woodbridge, this group, and I'm so proud to be a part of them. We have lots of energy, lots of ideas, and lots of respect for everyone's ideas, and it's just been a pleasure. One of the main objectives of our committee is working towards building a more inclusive Woodbridge and a welcoming Woodbridge for everyone. And I want to highlight 2 efforts that we have undertaken to do that. The first is a series of discussions that we're calling Mosaic, Woodbridge Reading and Community. And this is a discussion series that we've taken on. We've done 3 so far. We like to host them in the center of town where folks can gather together. And these discussion series cover a wide range of diverse topics, and they're meant to bring community members together to engage in meaningful and sometimes difficult and important conversations together. 2 of our community members, Reverend Antona Smith and Rabbi Rona Shapiro, have led some of these discussions in the past. And in January, we are looking forward to hosting our 4th with Connecticut Poet Laureate Antoinette Brim Bell. And this has brought folks together from Woodbridge, but has also brought in folks from Bethany and Orange who are seeking to have these types of discussions and don't have this opportunity in their own town. So it's really been really great. The second major effort is, as Beth mentioned, Woodbridge Like Me Day. We had our 2nd Woodbridge Like Me Day at the beginning of October. And this event was designed to really highlight the rich diversity that exists in Woodbridge that we always don't get to see on display. We had several hundred people in attendance, and I think it's fair to say now this is going to be an annual event. Really well received, great performances, great organizations, food and music. I think it was great and a great event for all. And I really would be remiss if I didn't mention that Tony Belinsky had really jumped into this and helped us in every way she could, very graciously. This is a learning curve for all of us since Betsy had done most of the work in past years. And also Mark Dutka and Carlos Torres, phenomenal. Everything we need for setup. They did it with a smile, they did it with grace, and it was so great to work with such a great team. So while we like to pat ourselves on the back for all the great work we've done so far, we also recognize that there's a lot of work yet to be done. I think this is ongoing, lifelong work. This is not a box that we check off and say that we're done with diversity, that we're done with inclusion, that we're done with equity. And to that end, we have Stephen has designed the Experiencing Woodbridge survey that he will now share with you that will inform our work going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So of course, coming to a presentation this time of day of data makes me a little worried. I hope you're all caffeinated. But I will say that it should just last about 9 minutes. So we'll ideally keep it moving efficiently. So what I've shared is
we're here for the long haul, so.
Oh, I know. Well, that's why I'm thinking I don't want to knock it out right at the beginning.
No worries.
So this is an executive summary from the full report, both of which we'll be posting on the DEI committee page of the town website. And I just want to make sure you can all hear me all right. We're good? Good. All right. So to kick off, what was the goal of the Experiencing Woodbridge survey? Well, Woodbridge has grown increasingly diverse in recent years. Currently, more than 1 in 4 residents are people of color. 1 in 5 residents began their lives in another country. Many residents identify as people with disabilities, and more residents than ever identify as LGBTQ. So to ensure that Woodbridge is an inviting and affirming community for all current and future residents, the Experiencing Woodbridge survey was designed to help the ad hoc committee identify opportunities to better engage and serve all residents of our increasingly diverse community. So who could respond to the Experiencing Woodbridge survey? We sought the anonymous perspectives of all households in the community. This past spring, every Woodbridge household received a mailed survey invitation, which included a link to the online survey. In addition, the survey was promoted in town notices and school listservs, town newspapers, and even 2 sandwich boards at key intersections. What should you keep in mind as you listen to the survey findings? Well, first, the survey is a temperature check of how well our community is creating a welcoming environment, and it also offers a window into how our experiences may mirror or differ from those of our neighbors. Second, the survey is not a representative sample. So while respondents range from those with a strong commitment to DEI to those who are ambivalent or consider a focus on DEI to be more divisive than unifying, this survey was not designed to provide a precise representation of community perspectives. Therefore, findings should be interpreted as suggestive of Woodbridge community perspectives, but not definitive. What was the composition of responding Woodbridge households? Well, a total of 634 Woodbridge households provided responses to the Experiencing Woodbridge survey. This was 22% of all households in the community. There are no perfect measures of response rates, but I will say from a lot of prior experience with online surveys, typically you get a response rate of about 10 to 15%. So I think we can feel very good in terms of the community participation. Based on households that share demographic information with us on the survey, we know that both longtime and newer Woodbridge households responded. In fact, about the largest share of responding households have been in the community for at least 20 years. Woodbridge households at all income levels responded to the survey. Almost 1/3 of responding households are home to at least one person of color. Another 2/3 of responding households are home exclusively to white community members. Close to 1/4 of responding households have at least one member who's an immigrant to the United States. And finally, 1/3 of responding households have at least one member who's a person with disabilities. So what did we learn? When it comes to living in Woodbridge, not surprisingly, Woodbridge residents in general feel very comfortable living here and engaging in most community activities. In most cases, a majority of responding households reported feeling very comfortable engaging with town employees, participating in town events, and engaging in day-to-day activities around Woodbridge. Moreover, the vast majority of responding households reported feeling at least somewhat comfortable. Where Woodbridge residents are most likely to report feeling uncomfortable when engaging is with town and Amity school leadership. So among responding households, roughly 1/4 reported feeling somewhat or very uncomfortable when engaging with the Amity Regional School District administrators, town board and commission members, participating in school board meetings, board and commission meetings, annual town meetings, and public hearings. Households with at least one person of color, an immigrant member, and or lower income households are the most likely to report feeling uncomfortable when engaging with different types of town employees. What about specific experiences of discrimination in the town? Despite having a general sense of comfort in the community, nearly 1 in 6 responding households reported having experienced discrimination in Woodbridge. Among households with at least one member of color, close to 1/3 reported having experienced discrimination. Among households with at least one immigrant member, just over 1/4 reported having experienced discrimination. Among the types of discrimination experienced by at least one household member, close to half of those reporting discrimination believe it was based on ethnic or racial identity. So in the survey, we asked respondents to share their experiences if they felt comfortable. I'll provide a couple of illustrative examples of what we heard. First, from time to time I would get asked if I lived in town when I was walking my dog at the cornfields. As a Black resident, I initially thought it was just small talk. I asked my other friends if this ever happened to them, and they could not recall this coming up. Just a reminder that local residents are unaware of how their biases are very clear to new residents. A second, there have been a number of incidents when I was running for exercise Residents either surveyed me or engaged in mild intimidation behaviors, like stopping their car at the beginning of the driveway and waiting for me to pass, while their large dogs barking and being aggressive as I ran by. Bias based on socioeconomic status ranked as the second most commonly cited form of discrimination. Almost 1/5 of those reporting discrimination indicated this as a factor. Perspectives shared by these respondents included: the residents of this town are judgmental depending on where you live. I'm a single mom and I do not live up the hill in Woodbridge. I am judged and looked down upon. Another shared, I sometimes feel at public meetings that the town people look down on people who do not make as much money as they do. I feel they ignore us and what would benefit our class. Discrimination based on religious affiliation, disability status, and gender identity were cited by roughly 1 in 7 responding households that reported having experienced discrimination in the community. And in the survey, we also provided an open-ended response. Interestingly, among those responding to other, the forms of discrimination cited by survey respondents, political affiliation was frequently cited. And to give an example, our town lacks diversity when it comes to political affiliation, and I feel unwelcome at board meetings, being able to serve on boards, commissions, or being involved in any way in town. There is virtually no diversity and inclusion in this town to serve on boards, commissions, other than Democrats or independents who lean left. We also asked about how well the town is doing in terms of advancing DEI. I'll start by noting that more than 2/3 of responding households expressed an interest in deepening connections in our increasingly diverse community. And a majority of responding households see town employees as being at least somewhat effective in highlighting the value and benefits of our increasingly diverse community, although only a minority of respondents see them as being very effective. Respondents expressed interest in engaging in a range of activities, such as participating in community events that celebrate diversity, like Woodbridge Like Me Day, joining in discussion groups to foster a deeper understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and creating resource materials highlighting ways to support community diversity. They also provided a range of specific ideas for the town to consider, such as, please talk about it, do events, educate those concerned about the beauty of a diverse and culturally rich community. Reach out to members of the non-dominant ethnic and gender community to ask what they need instead of assuming you know. And show diversity in the staffing of town employees, especially schools, town hall, and police force. So what's next? As I noted, we'll be posting the findings. We also look forward to opportunities to share it, the findings in other venues, and our committee will be drawing upon learnings from the survey to identify and develop opportunities for greater community engagement across our many types of diversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. A lot to digest.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions for Stephen or, yep, go ahead.
The way people feel about things is very emotional. And when you take a survey, you're looking for data. A question that comes to my mind, which you probably didn't ask, but let me not assume you didn't ask it. Did the people who came to Woodbridge, were they asked if they experienced similar discrimination in the communities from which they came?
No, so we were not trying to compare to prior experiences. In essence, what our starting point in terms of conceptualizing the survey is that Woodbridge is a really good community. People are in general very happy here, but also not wanting to take that for granted. That said, this survey was very specifically focused on what we can do within the community of Woodbridge to continue to ensure that in this increasingly diverse community, we're not taking for granted that everyone feels equally comfortable, that we're making sure we really make that effort, plus seeing this as just a real opportunity for all of our children to benefit, all of us to learn and broaden our horizons.
Anyone else?
I have a question first, thank you for bringing to us this information. These are sometimes difficult conversations to have, and I really appreciate hearing from the committee and creating this survey to give residents a chance to let us know their thoughts. That being said, you're presenting us with some information about how residents feel sometimes uncomfortable engaging with both the town, employees, or whether it's Board of Selectmen or et cetera, or schools. And I wonder if your committee has any plans to present this information a little bit further, say to the Amity Board of Education, the Woodbridge Board of Education. Do you plan to share it out to let everyone know?
Great question. That is our hope. And so we have had just a very brief initial conversation when I shared the overall findings with the full committee. And in fact, our next meeting will be focused on exactly this type of outreach. But that, we really welcome the opportunity. And then I so appreciate your point about this can be a challenging discussion. This can be, this can make people uncomfortable. But in essence, I think we have real goodwill in this community. And there's just an opportunity to say, this isn't about anyone being bad. I mean, even the finding about discomfort with town committees, feeling less comfortable with town committees or with school board administration, the majority of people, the majority of our neighbors feel very comfortable. But there is a subset that isn't feeling as comfortable. So what are the ways that we can think about as a committee and as a town, as a community, to provide ways in? And it may be that's all that, it may be that there's just a need to feel more welcomed that is more intentional than has been the case. And that may be sufficient to really address this. But I think we have to know what we don't know in order to ensure that everyone feels like they're equally able to engage and benefit from what this community has to offer.
Yeah. I will tell you that there have been some past surveys of students, both at Beecher Road School and at Amity, and you've highlighted the socioeconomic status as an area of concern. That is also in the Beecher Road School survey. That is also in the Amity survey. So I think you're getting something that's kind of reinforced with other survey instruments. And so sharing this information with the two school districts, I think, would be potentially very helpful.
That's
So
great.
I'd
That's
encourage it.
fantastic.
Yep.
We will take that idea. That's wonderful.
Yeah, see if they can dig up the old survey data for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Where,
you.
where will your January event be held? The event that was alluded to earlier? And when you have these open meetings, generally how many people are in attendance?
Our committee is 10 now? Yeah, you should, Ellen.
So I think you're speaking about the mosaic
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, yeah.
We've had between 20 and 30 participants, which we think is pretty good, actually. In the good weather, when we started having them, we met outdoors, mostly COVID-related, but it was lovely. We met in front of the center school building outside. We're going to be moving indoors probably to the library meeting room in the colder weather. We don't know yet what the reading will be for January. The poet, as Tahira mentioned, the Poet Laureate of Connecticut has very graciously agreed to come and lead a discussion, but what the reading will be hasn't been identified.
I thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Please thank the committee members that are not here as well for all your good work, and thank you for updating us. Keep us posted. Thank you. And it is not yet 6 o'clock, so we will wait. Skip. Chief's here?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So why don't we see if we can move with no objections to the Fire Department 2023 operating budget update from Fire Chief Rowland.
Moving the audience in and out, it's good.
Yeah, we're kind of rotating.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody get up. The kids all pulled out, and then the DEI
Fill it
committee
in.
came in. And come on up, Chief. You've just been introduced.
Oh, okay.
You have some updates on the air packs, the radios, and truck repairs.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us. All right. I guess some packets I'll let you know.
We have your memos in our packet regarding the, everything that you sent. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so if we go to the first page, we'll talk about the radios first. So a few years ago, we upgraded the radio system in town. That was the brain of what controls the portables, the mobiles, and a lot of the other equipment that we use. Basically, enhance the towers and increase the coverage and sound quality. And what we did is phenomenal. It still is. So it worked out really well. At that time, the subscriber units, basically the portable radios that the guys carry, the firefighters carry with them all the time on a fire, along with the truck radios, are beyond their useful life and they need to be replaced. So this was the second part of what we have to do. These radios are 2011, so what happens is if they break, we usually send them out. What happens is now is they're at the end of their useful life. They're no longer supported, and we can't get them fixed. And if we can, they're extremely expensive. So if they find used parts for them. So what we need to do is we need to replace the radios. We put this in our capital budget last year. And the thought was to go with the air packs in this, possibly bond it all together as one project, even though they're separate. So these are the radios the guys carry in fires, at scenes, and it's their way of communicating. Every portable radio is ID'd to the actual firefighter. So if I were to key up, it's going to come up S. Roland, so they know whose portable it is. So if anybody ever gets in trouble, they would hit the orange button and it automatically keys up on everybody's radio. If I were to key this up now, it keys up and it comes up with my name, not just an ID number. So it's also extremely important. Basically, we're looking for 54 portables. They issue one every guy, just basically what we have now. I think there's 2 spares in here, and the spare radios that we have in case one goes out. We have a spare one to put in. Also, the 2 spare radios act as RIT radios. They're for a rapid intervention team, so anytime we have a structure fire, whether it be a house fire, a building fire, we call another town in to have a RIT team. There's 4 guys that stand by, and their sole job is, well, let's go back. Our job, one, firefighters, is to go in and rescue the victims, right? So if God help us, something ever happens to one of us in the fire, instead of having the firefighters go in, you have this rapid intervention team, and we do it for other towns also. So we would issue them the 2 portable radios that we have, and they listen, and if somebody goes into a mayday, those 4 guys are basically going in to rescue that firefighter. So that's what those radios would be used for. If you scroll to the next page, I think it's page 3. These are the truck radios. They're called mobiles. They're in every single truck. Some trucks have multiple radios to talk to mutual aid, to go on fire ground channels, to stay on the actual repeater channels. So these radios are extremely important. These radios need to be replaced. Some of them are from 2008, 2007, 2008, and they're beyond their useful life. They're no longer supported. So that's part 2. Part 3, if you switch to the next slide. So if you can look up here, you'll see the first radio on the top here that's lit up. It's got a red sticker on it. That's the fire radio. That's our main fire channel radio. If you look at the next line, the blue radio, that's the main police channel radio. Okay? That's what talks to the console in dispatch and everything else. Then we have the 2 radios that are circled. Those are dated from 2003, and what we do with those is those are our mutual aid radios. Those are way beyond their useful life, and it's only a matter of time before they let go and break. So what we need to do is we need to replace those two radios with radios that look like, they're called consolettes, that look like these radios that would go into the rack right underneath that and replace those. That's how we talk, that's how we're able to talk to a mutual aid when we go out or they come in. It works vice versa, and everybody communicates together. So those are extremely important. You guys have any questions as we go here? I know it's a little overwhelming.
When somebody comes in, is it simply a matter of being on the same radio channel wavelength? Like like you were mentioning the two spare radios. Would you on a mission like that have your own radios that you could just simply turn to that local fire station?
Yeah, so some of our radios have the capability of doing it, but not all the radios. So different departments. So then you get into frequency bands. So you have UHF, ultra high frequency, and then you have VHF.
Yeah.
Okay? So you would need to buy a dual band radio that does UHF and VHF together. So those radios actually go to the officers where everybody else has a single band radio because they're obviously cheaper than a dual band radio. But these are the radios that actually talk out to the other agencies also.
And how many of these, the mobile radios in a vehicle do we currently have that need to be?
So we have, some trucks have one radio, and most of the trucks have anywhere between 2 and 3 radios in them. So one radio is at the pump panel usually, and the other, there's a radio, mutual aid radio inside the cab, and a fire radio inside the cab. So you're constantly communicating. So it varies truck to truck. That's. Want me to continue?
Yep, please.
Okay. The next slide is the air packs. This is
Please.
okay.
Pretty
The
much
next slide
this was
is the
another
air
capital
packs.
also last year.
These air packs we need to replace. I have 10 air packs that are going to be coming out of date as of December 31st of this year. After 15 years, the pack can be no longer recertified in per DOT and NFPA. It needs to be replaced. We did probably about 5 or 6 years ago. We replaced our other air packs that were up, and these air packs still had some life to them, another 5 or 6 years. And now we're at the point where we need to replace these 10, and they need to come out of service by the end of the year. So when we go to order these, the lead time is already between 4 to 5 months. So even if we were to order them today, we're still going to be short until we get them. So it's something we need to act on.
So before you go to the update on the budget,
Yep.
I just wanted to discuss a few items on this. The first is that the items will be purchased as indicated in here on Sean's letter here. The radios are purchased off state contract,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So it's a state bid that we will be using for the radios, which we've done in the past. And those are Motorola, I think it is,
Motorola,
right?
yep.
And then the air packs, which also we've done in the past, we're using a Sourcewell contract. That's the best price that we can get for those. And those are, if you recall, Sourcewell it's more of a national contract that we've used for other items. So, so both of those will be purchased off those two contracts. And in the budget, we have funding for both of those to lease purchase both of these. So what'll happen now is I'll go and get lease purchase information and pricing and rates and all that information. I go out to get quotes from various sources and then come back with that information to the board and Board of Finance probably next month. So it's sort of a two-step process. First is to move forward on this. Second is the financing. And then once the financing is approved, then Sean can order the equipment.
And as I understand it, Tony, these were approved in this year's current budget.
So in the
lease
budget for
purchase.
this year, The purchases were in there for both radios and air packs. And the assumption when we did the budget was to at least purchase them over a period of years. So you see that in the budget.
So the first payment might not be.
It's in we do usually do 1 year in arrears.
Right. Okay.
Because the interest rate difference is so small between upfront and in arrears historically anyway. That's usually the route we use. We'll see how the pricing works. But yes.
Okay, so before we go to truck repairs, we have actions appropriate on both these items. It seems that it has been approved in the budget, and it's a life safety issue for the guys and for our town. So we can discuss it further, but I will make a motion that we approve funding. How do I
So
word this?
what you're going to be approving is the purchasing of the items off the contracts that we discussed.
Okay.
And the method of the financing method will be at your next meeting.
Okay, so the
So it's
funding
just
for
the
the.
purchasing, really it's the purchasing part
Got
that you're
it.
approving now, then the funding will be at the next meeting.
Okay, so it's the
That makes
radios
sense.
off of the
Yeah.
state bid?
Right, the radio's off the
And
state bid.
the air packs off of the
Sourcewell,
Sourcewell
correct.
contract, okay. Is that enough? That's adequate, I hope? Okay, Jerry, you got that? I'll
Yeah.
make that motion. Is there a second? Is there any discussion on any of these?
So, Chief,
Questions or whatever? Go ahead.
So, Chief, the air packs are bought sort of in a staggered fashion every few years. We replace a few.
Yeah, no, so there's two, it's staggered twice. One is, which we did for 30 of them, which was done, I want to say about 6 years ago.
Yeah,
I think we just
about
got done
that,
paying
yeah.
them off. And then there's
6,
10.
7 years ago.
And then 10 is the second one, that's what we're doing now.
I see. What's the lifespan of these air?
15 years. And along with the bottle too. So we have to, every air pack, you have to buy the air pack and then you have to buy the bottle that comes with it and you have to buy a spare.
We purchased them in like '07, I think. We purchased these, maybe
Yeah, it was a while
'06,
ago.
'07, somewhere around there.
David or David, any comments or questions? Joe, okay. We'll move forward on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Now I'll leave you to item C, truck repairs update.
Okay. So if
Hi
you
Karen,
flip-
I'll note that Chairman of the Fire Commission has just arrived.
So, this next item, if you switch to the next page, what I did is I gave you guys a spreadsheet of basically all the big equipment, like the apparatus that we have, just so you have an idea of what we're talking about, the year of the truck, the make of the truck, whether it holds water, no water, and the gallons per minute basically is the pump size on the truck, just for your knowledge. If you skip to the next slide, so we had some, and it happens every once in a while, it just doesn't happen this quick. The last couple years during COVID, we actually were busy, but we were able to keep truck repairs down. Our engineering department does a phenomenal job with this, they keep up on it. But we did have some major repairs as of July of this year, which were definitely unanticipated for. Our repair maintenance line budget line item is $80,000, and I like to go through some of the repairs. So on the tower this year, we had to rebuild the cylinders. The truck was going out to get ladder tested, aerial tested, and we had some hydraulic leaks with the cylinders that they needed to pull those big cylinders off the truck, and they had to rebuild them, and they had to put them back on, along with there were some other cylinders up at the basket that needed to be replaced because the basket would sag and it wouldn't pass ladder testing, so we needed to replace that. And the cost of doing all that work on that truck was $22,380. That was, I mean, that hit us right in July. And then tanker 5, that's one of the tankers that holds 3,000 gallons of water. It's basically our water shuttle to the fire. And it went out for testing and just the routine maintenance that we normally do. And there was quite a bit of stuff on it, along with, we had a problem with the new emissions on it, where we had to send it to Black Rock, where they had to do a lot of work on it. They had to pull it off, they had to play with the DPF on the truck, along with other things, and those repairs added up to be $67.74 to get that truck back into service to work. And that truck was out of service for 5 weeks. The next truck is, we had engine 9. We came in one day and there was a big puddle of oil underneath the truck. We tried to isolate it, tried to put a Band-Aid fix on it, it just wasn't working. So we needed to fix that and the turbo on that truck. And that repair was $3,300. Rescue 1 is our 2008. We had a call a few months ago and we needed the winch on it. And believe it or not, I've never really seen it, but a fire truck actually stalled out on the scene. We went to pull a car back a little bit so we could work on the car, and the truck stalled out. By doing that, there was a wiring issue. We had to rewire the winch back to the truck so it prevents that from happening again. Also, we had a generator issue where it was leaking, and we had to repair that. Also, the scene lights that are on the side of the truck, and this was just recent over the last week and a half. We had 3 of them blow out within a matter of like 5 days, and we had to replace 4. We replaced all 4 of them. The LED, they were halogens, so we took the halogens off and we put it on. We put LED on, which costed us probably about $6,000, but they were roughly $1,538 a light. But it's actually not necessarily a bad thing. I know the money is a bad thing, but what it did is, by putting LED on it, taking the halogen off, it actually helps the generator, because we were pulling a lot of power just to do the lights. Now we're pulling under 10 amps, so, which is phenomenal. The light is a lot better, it's a lot brighter. They got installed actually yesterday, so it does cost money, but it actually helps us with the generator issue on that truck too. Engine 2 has not gone out yet. That's why it says to be determined on that. We had a couple people look at it, a couple of our maintenance shops look at it. We have some pump issues on that truck. That truck's 2003, that truck's 20 years old. That truck's gonna be a minimum of $15,000 once we start getting into it. So, and we had 2 different people look at it. We're anywhere between probably $15,000 and $23,000 that we have to put into that truck. So I'm trying to push it down the road a little bit, but it is coming, and it is gonna be a good expense, just like the tower was. In engine 7, we had a couple minor issues. The AC wasn't working. We had to do some work on it, and the total was 15. So when we look at everything, I mean, we could take the 15,000 away from the 58, but this is 58,000 at the minimum that we're gonna spend that's unanticipated this year, just without the routine maintenance on all the trucks and the equipment on the trucks. So that's why I've been in constant contact with Tony over this. And we're definitely gonna run short in that account, and we're trying to do what we can to try to keep the expenses down. Just right now, this year, it's high. The last 2 years, we've been pretty good, but we've had years, probably 3 or 4 years ago, where we were spending an average of between $100,000 and $125,000 a year. So
My experience is that it goes in cycles.
It does.
Sometimes it's not bad, and then you have a couple of years where it's, depending on the age of the vehicles.
So, Chief, how do you budget for that? Is it just based on sort of your experience, or do you have a component that is kind of regular maintenance?
Yeah,
based on?
so we know what each truck costs. We have a breakdown of what each truck roughly costs each year to repair on the truck side of it, not including the equipment, and that's how we base our number. And we anticipate a couple repairs here and there, but nothing to this magnitude. I mean, to spend $58,000 on an $80,000 budget, and it's only November, beginning of November, is not really.
That's the issue, right?
I couldn't anticipate it. I don't think anybody could.
I just thought it was important that he come and give us this update because we heard about it, so we're forewarned.
So there may be a transfer
Where we
request
are.
or a funding request at some point to help.
Right, so
So you guys should know.
Right.
we'll probably come back next month looking for a funding request. We definitely are not going to have enough money to get us through. Looking for a funding request. We definitely are not. But if you guys want some more information on it, I could bring the chief engineer with me next time, and he can go into all the details of it. But this is where we are.
Thank you for this news. It is what it is.
So I just want to also say Truck or Treat was a really good success this year. We had it back at the firehouse. I can't tell you exactly how many people came. We did it a little different. We didn't serve as much food as we normally serve just because we were worried about COVID. We didn't know where the numbers were going to be. But we handed out a bunch of fire prevention stuff, which we normally do. It's a good way to get out to the community, especially being October Fire Prevention Month. We handed out 1,000 fire prevention bags with different things in it to kids. We went through 1,000 of them by 6:20 that night, and the event started at 5 o'clock. So it was a really good event. We were happy to do it back at the firehouse again. And we're going to be doing Santa at the firehouse December 17th. And we're looking for unwrapped toys for the toy closet. So we're trying to get back into the swing of things. Hopefully COVID numbers will stay down, but we got to get back to some type of normalcy. So
Thank you.
that's where we are.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Now it's after 6, so we will go back to public
I have
comment.
a question
Oh.
for Sean, kind of on an unrelated item. So last winter was a horrendous winter weather-wise and also in terms of fires. And we had a fire in a really sub-frigid weather when a pump froze up. And I was wondering if anything has been done to address that problem in the future, whether we made any modifications to the truck, whether there is anything to address that those problems?
There's really, so I know the fire you're talking about, they do make,
There's a structure fire,
yeah, they do make internal heaters inside the pump compartment. But what happened on that fire was, it was more the external devices that actually failed and cracked. So when you talk about half-inch solid brass valves that crack, there's nothing you can do about it because we're moving so much water at a time, and the water's ice cold, especially with the wind hitting it. There's no way to heat that water before it comes out where it can do damage to the equipment. So I know we lost hose that day. We lost a bunch of valves, nozzles. I mean, as soon as the guys would shut down the nozzle it must have been 30 seconds. It was like minus 20. It was freezing instantly because we were pulling new hose off of the truck just to do it. And we would tell everybody not to shut the lines down. But there's not a lot you can do with looking back at that night. There's not a lot of there's nothing you can really do
What
to
do
try
they
to
do in
prevent it.
places like Minnesota and Toronto where they have these terribly cold winters? Do they experience the same issues? Or is there a
No, I think we're just, I mean, when you start talking -20, -25, it's just, it's instant when you're playing with water. I mean, as soon as you put water down on the ground, it was freezing instantly, and we had people sliding all over the place. There's not a lot to do when it gets that cold. Be nice to fight a fire at 70 degrees outside, but it just doesn't, yeah, so.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you. Now we'll go back to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up for public comment? Come on up, state your name and address, please. And in the interest of time and our very big agenda, if you could just speak for 3 minutes, that would be very helpful.
John Adamovich, 17 Apple Tree Lane, lifetime resident of Woodbridge. I'm here as representing the Recreation Department, along with our chair, Andrea Weinstein. And we just want to bring to light our feelings about the pool. Beecher Road School Pool has been an asset to the Recreation Department since I've been there. I took over in '87 as director, and I was there way before that. I've been working for recreation since 1968. And we didn't have a pool at the beginning, but now we have a pool. We have Beecher Road School involved. We have Beecher Road School. Mr. Taddy has a wonderful Learn to Swim program. We have lessons. This pool is an important asset to the town of Woodbridge. There's not much that we have that we give to the people of the town of Woodbridge. We have police, we have public works, the fire department is volunteer, and the rec department provides many of the things that the people from preschool to adults to seniors. And this pool incorporates all of that. I think it's important that we work on this pool. I know it's expensive. I know it's going to be a project, but it was there for 50 years. And Brad Parsons is unbelievable what he can do and how he does.
What timing.
I mean,
Just walked in.
Did you plan that?
And let me say this about that.
Right
Well,
on
he's
cue.
here and he needs all the accolades he can get. One of the concerns I have is Mr. Parsons is not as young as he used to be. We all are. And I'm afraid down the road
Tell me
that
about it.
we may need somebody to replace him. And that's going to be hard to do. What he does is he maintains that pool at a high rate, at a high level of efficiency. And that's a 50-year-old pool. And when they came in, you were going to be able to read your programs that was sent, that was taken, the survey. And it's going to show you that the job that we've done here in Woodbridge for 50 years, we've really saved a lot and we've done a lot. We've also had the people of the town of Woodbridge that want to use the pool send you in what they feel about it.
Yeah, we have them all in our packet.
Yeah.
They were coming up in all day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they had the wrong address. They had for me.
That's all right,
so
they're
they
here,
went to-
but there's one major
We
one
got 'em.
I hope that you would read, and that was from Margot Farrell. I don't know if you know who she is. She won the bronze medal in London for swimming for the United States. She went through Beecher. She's a Beecher alum. She used that pool. That's what you get when you have something in the community. You teach them how to swim. Safety. Children won't die. They know how to swim around a pool. At a young age, we get them into that water and they learn how to swim and they're protected. So we're hoping, and the commission's hoping, that the Board of Selectmen would okay the filters first, I think are coming up, and that's important because that'll give us a couple of years. Brad can explain to you, that'll give you a couple of years. And then we could spread it out over a distance. We could fix this pool. And we don't have to do it all at once. I think we can do it in partial fixtures along the way.
3 minutes are up.
Okay, well, I just want to let everybody know that the Recreation Department is wanted to do this. And the reason why they want to do this, we back what we taught. We put $17,000 from the Recreation Department into the filters. Where we will take $17,000 that we could afford out of our budget and put it towards the filters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad will put the rest.
Anyone else for public comment? Do you have to come up, or we have, are you, did you send a letter? We have it in our packet. Thank you very much. Are there any other hopefully everyone got that one. We put it in, we'll be discussing it later this evening. I don't want you to have to stay long in case your baby gets tired. Because we'll probably be discussing it in executive session. but then we may have action later on. Thank you. Jerry, did anything else come in up until 3 o'clock other than the multitude of Beecher Road School pool?
No, not
letters?
as of
Okay.
3 o'clock.
Thank you so much. All right, anything else on, we're all good? Okay.
Good, yeah.
Item next. Sorry, boy, that scared me to death, that was loud.
Me too.
Ooh, sorry, everybody's awake now. Okay, with that, I see Alexi is here. Item 7, the Darling House Barn Restoration. Nice to see you in person, my friend.
Yeah.
Here you go. This is a
Couldn't
little
catch you
handout.
the other night at the chair donation, chair
Oh,
unveiling.
I
but-
didn't see, oh,
You can hand that out. That was
Yep,
great.
it
Glad
was,
you're able to make it.
it was a little toasty in there, so I upped and escaped. Here, David. It's two, a couple of those. You guys, I'll save one for Julie, just in case.
You need an
There,
extra?
there's
I have
two
an
there.
extra. I have an
Yeah.
extra.
Okay, Jerry, here's one for each. Well,
got an extra.
yeah, it's okay. No, we're okay. Yeah, I think everybody's good. Just
Okay.
holding one for Jerry for the record.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Floor is
you want me
yours.
to start or do you want to start?
I'll give some background
Okay.
to the project,
And then when you start, be sure to say who you
and
are.
then you can start.
We're no longer in boxes on a box,
I know.
so.
I want to just
It's
explain the, with the handout that was presented. So the town had in its budget to fund 50% of the cow barn restoration, which is on adjacent to Darling House property. And at the time, the budget for that was about $110,000. Since that time, and as part of that project, the other 50% is a State Historic Preservation Office grant. So they fund 50% of construction and any contingency related to that construction. And so at the time, it was roughly $110,000. The bids were received by the Historical Society, which is the recipient of the grant, correct? Right? The town is not the recipient of the grant, but we're working in cooperation. And the grant was, it's safe to say that the amount for the winning bid was much higher than was anticipated. And so you can see by the top sheet, the total project budget is $300,000. That includes a 20% contingency. And so therefore, there's a shortfall in the project. So I just wanted that, so that's this top sheet.
So, hi everybody, I'm Alexi Beltran, I'm the president of the Amity and Woodbridge Historical Society. Hi everybody, I'm Alexi Beltran, I'm the president. Introduction to, we had come the last couple of years, we did a survey and planning grant to get engineering surveys done of all of the barns. We then wrote another survey and planning grant last fall to get bid level drawings to do the work on the cow barn. We took care of the emergency ice house because there wasn't a time to write a grant, but the next most urgent things, and you guys all received the engineering report last year that was quite detailed. So we got bid level drawings to do the work on the cow barn, and then working with, and then got the grant funded by SHPO and worked with the engineers, GNCB, to do the RFP, got the bids. And as Tony said, came in well above what was estimated. SHPO was not surprised by that. They are finding all of the projects are coming in 2 to 3 times what the estimates were, and that's exactly where ours is, in the middle of 2 and 3. And they approved, because they have to approve the bid, which they did. I went to their meeting last week, and they have approved additional funds. Again, they do 50%. It's always a matching grant. So they have approved additional funds to cover 50% of the completed bid, which is the $243,000 and change, $872, I think. And then they added on that 20% contingency in case it goes over for one reason or another, so that we don't have to go back to them. So we're happy with the contractor. We think they really understand the whole preservation of, and seem great to work with, but obviously the project is going to cost a lot more. So when we had them do the bid, the bid I think was in your packet, you will see that it was broken down into a base bid and
It's
then,
actually, if you look on page, of this one I handed out, pages 3 and 4, you'll see the base bid, it's actually on page 4, base bid and then the, alternates,
right.
the add alternates, those are ads.
So those alternates were all things that were planned to be done and from the engineering survey, but with GNCB, we decided to do that so that we could have, with the idea that this actually might happen, which was why it was done. So we didn't add anything to do that wasn't proposed by the engineers, but they broke it up so that, with the expectation that the bids were probably gonna come in higher, could we at least, even if the project is done as a whole project, that the billing is kind of chunked out separately. It obviously makes the most sense to get the contractors in there and complete everything that was proposed in those bid level drawings, and that they said is needed. So, I don't know, Tony, if you wanna go next.
So the second sheet in this packet is, you'll see it's got a deficit of $47,000. This second sheet is just completing the base bid of the project, of which has in there the base bid, 20% of the base bid contract, and the engineering and architectural engineering, so that's total expenses of $196,000. And with the town contribution of $55,000 and the SHPO grant of 50%, you'll notice there's a deficit of $47,544. So it's less deficit to accomplish the base bid, at least at this time.
Right, and so, and obviously you can see that Tony and I have been talking over the last few days that if we go with that for just this budget year, I will turn in an updated 5-year budget plan that will be asking for matching the rest of the 2 add-ons. Again, it will be done kind of sequentially by the contractor, but by the time they get to doing that, it will actually be in next year's, it will be next year anyway, so it could fall into that budget. So the Historical Society, of course, is hoping that the town, since SHPO will still be, SHPO doesn't give you a set dollar amount. SHPO always funds up to they fund 50%. So that number that they're giving is only if it's matched. They don't give that amount and then we can do less.
Right.
So I just want to make that clear for everybody. So, so of course, hoping that the town that it will, be approved in next year's budget for the add-on, and that for this year, the additional funds can be found so that the work can be done to preserve the building.
So do we know why it ended up being so off in terms of probably related to COVID maybe, or?
Yeah, I mean, the cost of wood and materials in general is way up, and the cost of labor is up. And I think it's really both of those things. I don't know that it's the work hasn't changed, so it's not like they found something different, so it's all just about the cost of doing the project.
I'm sorry, and in this year's budget, we have approved in our capital right now
$55,000,
toward the
correct.
project.
Correct.
And I don't think, I'm not sure, maybe Tony can explain further, but I don't think we have an approved budget, so you're talking about perhaps next year.
So if
how can we make this work without, we can't spend money we don't have
Right,
approved.
no, right.
Yeah.
So we would have to, do some sort of a transfer or funding request or some sort of I'm not sure.
If we tried to do it this year.
If you wanted to do it this year, I would have to look into that. I don't know at the moment what that would look like. But.
So just so I understand, the deficit on this page 2, the deficit number of 47,000, that's not a town deficit, that's a project deficit.
Correct, that's a project deficit.
Could be covered
correct.
with donations, or I don't know if the Historical Society has additional funds that they can contribute, because otherwise we're going to be delaying, and you can't
Well, and
start
if we
the project,
delay,
right?
we lose the grant.
So what's the timeline for the grant to?
They want the project completed by the fall of 2023.
Okay.
So they're it's a 2-year award, and it was awarded last.
So if we put
Winter.
47,000 in next year's capital request, we go through the budget, that would be in December, it would be presented, then we would go to the public hearing in April, the annual town meeting in May, and the money is available in July. Is that enough time to finish between July and the fall?
Yeah, the project will have to start before that. The project will have, and it would be the full amount, not just the 47. Because the full amount is on the first page,
Right,
and the
but
whole
can you-
project has to get done.
Can you start the project without the 47,000?
We can start the project without the 47. I mean, we don't pay them up front, so yes.
But can you sign a contract without the full amount of money approved
well,
from various
So
two-year?
if we do, and then it would be the Historical Society's endowment, but if we're paying the full amount to do this project in addition to everything else, the problem we have with fundraising is everybody says the town owns the building, so they should be paying. So we raised $55,000 last year that all went into the buildings, and the town didn't contribute anything to that. We did that all ourselves, and this year we're doing another 15 to 20,000. So there's a limit to what we can raise as an all-volunteer organization to do that.
Right.
So,
So is that money already accounted in the project, though? I don't think I understand. You're doing fundraising for
because
this?
there's so many other things for the buildings. We did the painting last year, we did all the wood rot, the window repairs, the porch repair, the rotted porch from the bad roof. We paid for all of that last year. So this is just the cow barn project, but every building there is an old building that needs, they need work. They need maintenance and preservation, or we're gonna lose them. So
you don't have that money available, and we don't have that money available till we get through our budget process. Can you sign a contract, though, with neither of us having this money available?
well, like I said, but if we would deplete our endowment, but if we don't sign the contract, we're gonna lose that grant from SHPO, and they're unlikely to give us another one if we can't follow through. So, and that would be sort of a disaster, because going forward, we need to write those grants. So, but, it's hard for us to deplete our endowment when we don't even own the buildings if the town can't try to come up with those funds. I understand, and that's why Tony and I talked about the 47 comes now, and then the additional ask in the budget is for those add-ons. Those would come, it can all come in next year's budget as well, but then, the Historical Society is really going out on a limb, and we don't own the buildings. And we got the half of the money, we got the grant, for the town, obviously, because for the town building. So we're hoping that, that the Board of Selectmen and also the Finance Committee will, approve those additional funds, and then also, there's the capital budget part of increasing the amount that we request for next year. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach that Tony and I thought might work, instead of, because it might be even harder, of course, to do all of that 91,000 additional right now.
It's just that, yes, this year's budget doesn't have any room for that at this point, so we have to figure, right? The recommendation really has to be that we put it in next year's budget and hope.
Is there any money in the Darling line item that can be transferred for this, or they don't have outside of this?
I think the line item went away last year because there was 55,000 in capital budget, so we didn't get anything in the line item.
I'd have to look at.
In cap,
Yeah.
there's nothing in operating that we know of.
Yeah, that's
or-
right.
I'd have to,
Yeah.
if it's something you're interested in me looking into, I can do that, and we'd have to do it at the next meeting anyway, because I don't have it prepared for tonight.
So it seems clear we need there needs to be some brainstorming around where this 47,544 is coming from. So if it's
Yeah.
Right.
possible to partner with the Historical Society, and maybe we can identify some funds that could be transferred in the
I can do
existing
that.
budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tony,
yes,
can we take any funds out of contingency for that?
you could, that's certainly an option.
Sometimes we don't want to do that early in
I
the
understand.
issue.
Maybe not, I would prefer not to do the whole thing, but that could be
Maybe
part of
we
an
can-
overall solution.
Yeah, we find pieces in little places to
Right.
fund this.
Alexia, sometimes the big box stores, at least for the smaller Boy Scout projects, are very generous in donating materials. Have you approached any of those for possible donations?
No, because most of the materials they couldn't get from there because it's larger beams and trying to do in-kind replacements because it's a post and beam structure. So and usually they don't carry. I mean, we can see if there's some, there might be things like nails and other things perhaps that could be used, but a lot of the wood, they don't carry the type of stuff. We have to go to lumber yards. There is wood on site, old beams and other pieces of wood that the contractors are preparing to try to look through to see what they can use. Also, it's older and historic, so would be better to use anyway. But until they really get on site and can look at that, they don't know. So their hope, and our hope, is obviously that some of that could be used and it might bring down the cost of the materials.
Yeah. What happened to the wood from the little schoolhouse that was in the Yellow Barn?
So the schoolhouse went to a Woodbridge resident, but that was kind of cut into like 4-foot wall segments, and unfortunately, the actual frame of the schoolhouse wasn't saved. I mean, none of us can speak to why
From the
that
80s.
happened.
Gary Shaw could probably tell us.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So anyway, but there isn't anything from that. The outside walls went. But like I said, there are these, that is the tent that is sitting over there now is housing old wood that was in the ice house and also some in the cow barn.
So, in terms of this $47,000, what is the time frame that you need to sort of commit to your vendor who's got the bid here?
It's supposed to be, in the next few weeks that we would be signing the contract.
So my thinking was if there was, say, the public wanted to put together a GoFundMe and people wanted to make contributions, the town can't accept contributions, but perhaps the Historical Society could?
And
we
we
do
do, and,
fundraising targeted to this 47,000. And then if we're looking, within the next month, we're gonna look and see what amounts we might be able to transfer.
And if not, we can do some of it next year as well if we have to in the capital. We'll have to just see how we can pull it all out.
Right, and if, even if they're starting the project, I mean, ideally, they're gonna be finishing sometime, in the summer, in July, so that it can be painted, before it gets too cold in the fall. But
Is it worth a phone call to find out if we can get a little bit of an extension with SHPO? We sometimes do that with our steep grants. I don't know if that's.
We do sometimes do that.
Yeah, so maybe we could reach out or, on behalf of the town, explain the situation.
Yeah, I can ask them. The one thing that it would delay, and I know that you guys had concerns, and in particular, Sheila, I think you had concerns, was the subsequent barns and the time frame for getting them done, that we can't write any other grants until this one is done.
Okay.
So that could impact then how soon that the works, from the engineering reports last year, there were questions about, why aren't you doing all of this at once? We could have written one big SHPO grant, but that would have been a much bigger amount of money at the same time. So it would delay getting the next grant in order to do the necessary work to preserve the other barns.
So if we take the add alternates out, can we just pause them because they're not structural and go on to the next grant, or do you feel?
No, well, one is, it's not that they're not structural. Well, the $8,000 one is the cosmetic stuff, but then you can't paint it because and then SHPO's expecting us to paint it, so it would still delay that. The others are, the rest is structural. It was just not quite as immediate as the things that were like, you really need to do this in the next year or two, or the barn's gonna start to fail in some way. And these were, you need to do this in the 2 to 3 year time frame. So that's why they were put that way. But as far as SHPO's concerned, they approved they approved the grant for the bid level drawings that included all of this. So if we do less, they're gonna give us less. They're not going to match. And I don't know what happens actually if we don't do the full project. I don't know that they fund any of it because we're not doing what we said we were gonna do. So then I'd have to go back to them and say, what happens if we do a part of the project? Ultimately, that will cost more because that would mean doing another RFP and having contractors come back a second time to do that additional work, which is not gonna be cost effective. So ultimately, it would cost more.
It sounds like we need to get some fundraising right away then,
Yeah.
so we can stay on track.
And we'll get on our end some answers, and we'll have to postpone this to the December meeting. I think, we can't make a vote tonight on spending, we don't have
Yeah,
sources,
we have
so
to
just
come up
find
with
out.
sources and
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
So,
Well, I guess Tony and I, you and I can talk about what I put then in the actual capital budget.
Right.
We don't have to
Yep.
discuss that here.
Yeah, I'll take care
Right,
of
and
that.
I mean, that, we could go through the whole thing and the town meeting could decide that they didn't want to approve the budget. Then we would have no control over that, so.
yeah.
No, I understand.
Our
Right.
control is even upstream of where you finally.
No, right, and that was true last year as well. I mean, ultimately, this is not a discussion for tonight, but ultimately, if the people of the town don't want to fund the repair and preservation of these buildings, then the town probably shouldn't continue to own them.
It
But
sounds
that's a
like
different
Sheila's
discussion.
suggestion was a really good one there, because if you do something that's.
Targeted fundraising, yeah.
if you
No,
do
no,
targeted
right,
funding,
but-
that might actually.
Well, we
find
did.
out
We have a
something.
building fund we established last year, and we raised a lot of money. That's how we spent $55,000 on this property last year. That was nothing to do with the Historical Society. It wasn't for our collections or anything like that. 100% of it went into the building. But we are limited, and we have been told that a lot of our donors tell us that why should we give you money for the buildings when the town owns the buildings? Why isn't the town giving you money for the buildings? So that has always hindered our fundraising for the buildings. That's an ongoing problem because everybody knows that we don't own them, that they don't understand why the Historical Society has to come up with all of the funds. So that hinders our fundraising, and that, that can't immediately, obviously that can't be fixed unless we own the building.
Well, it's this unexpected cost. I mean, we did fully fund this.
Right.
But now there's
Right.
unexpected costs.
Then we got a
Maybe the
surprise.
public would understand
Right.
and try to help.
Yeah, and it is the end of the year, and, we certainly do end of the year appeals and all of that, and we will do that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll do our best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just quickly while I'm here, I don't know if you guys have any questions about anything else, Historical Society related?
It was a wonderful chair you unveiled.
Yeah. Glad it's back in Woodbridge.
Very exciting.
How many are there?
The thought is there are 2 others, but it's not known
Yeah,
where they are, so.
wow, pretty cool.
That's great.
Thank you for that. Okay.
I would just quickly say the National Register listing updating is coming up. We have grant funding for that, so that will be, and I can come back and talk about other things if you want me on the agenda at some point to tell you more about other things going on. So just let me know if you want or need that.
Yeah, so one piece that we talked about a while back was the sort of inventory of your collection would be interesting. I don't know if it's ready to be shared with the public. You could share it with the Board of Selectmen when you're ready.
That is a long project because anyone who's ever been in there knows, and all the buildings. So it's something we're working on. We also had a grant called a CAP grant that we had a collections advisor come in and then also a building advisor. And so those reports are just coming in. Obviously the building, there's always something new to do on the building. That's house specific though. And then also for the collections as far as display, preservation, cataloging and all of that. But, the volunteers are there every week doing that, but it's a long process.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right?
thanks so much. Okay, we're up to number 8 now. Approve state required resolution of the town building committee for future capital projects. I think we did this.
We
But
did
we-
it, but
We added
Donna, well, we added to it.
necessary pool and security upgrades.
Yeah, yes, we
So
added
could I
that
have a
language.
motion to,
And Donna Coonan, is that her name?
Mhm.
Yeah, she said that there was specific form and language that the state required. So thought it would be best if we followed that, which I've done.
okay, so this is the 100% updated version of what needs to be approved. Everything's in there that needs to be done, correct?
Whatever 100% means.
Certainly what
Exactly.
we discussed at the committee, so it is
So,
up to date.
could I entertain a motion to waive the reading of the, establish this actual document?
I'll move to waive the reading.
Thanks. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion on the waiving of the reading? It's public information. It'll be up on the website. It's just that we'll be here until midnight. Okay, so with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now I'll make a motion that we approve the most up-to-date establishment and charge to the Town Building Committee for Beecher School capital projects. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You know what the best part about this is I don't have to call your names
Yeah,
one at a
so
time, you know,
quick.
in a box. So nice to be together. Okay, thank you. Okay, item 9 is discussion of the Beecher Road School Pool Report, and action is appropriate. Let's see, what have I got here? You have in your packet, they kept coming up into today. They were going to Tony, but not to me, so that's why the flurry came at the end of the day. For those who want to continue to send letters, it's bheller@woodbridgect.org, not Beth Heller. So I never got them because it doesn't exist, but I have since gotten them all. So we did hear from a lot of folks, and I think Brad is here to give us an update. Tony, how is this?
No, Brad's just here to listen.
Okay.
I have the update.
All right. Just want to make, I don't get forewarned on all this stuff, so.
Are you listening, man?
This is live.
So the one major update I can give you on this project is when we received the estimate originally in the report, it was for 63-inch filter tanks. And I guess typically in a pool of our size with in our design, 63-inch tanks would be the standard. But our existing tanks are 55-inch tanks. And so a couple of issues, the bigger tanks wouldn't really fit in the room. That would require a lot of work to retrofit the room to fit the tanks. And so Brad did a lot of work to try to ascertain as to whether or not we can stick with the 55-inch tanks, even though they at first glance would appear to be undersized. And so after contacting many various agencies, contact the state too? State Health Department. They all indicated that we can actually stick with the 55-inch tank, sort of grandfathered into the size that we had previously. So what that does is drops the estimate from approximately 80,000 to approximately 50,000. It's amazing how, 8 inches on a tank costs $30,000. I'm quite sure how that is.
That's for the filters, right? Just the filters.
That's for the filters. That does not include any code violations that existed that we may or may not have to do.
And does it have to be done prior to, if we go forward with the filters, we also have to do the code violation
I would
corrections?
say we have to do code violations.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
The pool was built prior to 1980. We don't have to fall under any of the code violations. Anything above 1980, we do, for a major retrofit. Just for filters, it's like for like, that's allowed, there's no violations, no permits required, there's nothing. You just simply buy the filters, install it, and you're back in business.
So things like the diving board that was specifically called out as kind of a safety hazard, is it, I imagine our insurance company might think that we should address that.
So there may be things that we don't have to do, but maybe we want to do, I don't know,
For
we would have to
safety.
review
Yeah,
that.
the report has to be reviewed, and somebody has to determine whether or not you still want to even keep the pool. And once you determine you really want to keep that pool, then a lot of stuff can be cut out, and you concentrate on just the important things to keep the pool running for another 20 years. You know, like the depth markers and slope of, on the floor, diving boards, starting platforms, all that stuff. In my opinion, is fluff. I would just concentrate on probably 4 items that will keep the pool running for 20 more years. That's what I would do, but that's your decision. It's in the Beecher Building Committee's hands. I just identified a flaw with the filters, which we didn't, 63 inch would be nice to have, but it's not a requirement. And when they put the filters in currently, that we currently have, that has to go to the state of Connecticut for approval with the pump size and flow rate, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. I saved that letter from 2001. It's the exact same filter on that piece of paper that we should put in now, 55-inch filters, and we'll achieve all our required standards to operate a pool. If you make changes and upgrade, that's when you have to apply for permits, it has to be reviewed, you make major modifications in the basement, and there's really no reason to do that. And I did talk to the person that did the inspection, he's in 100% agreement. 100%. I had a long discussion with him.
So we now have, as part of the charge of the, that we just voted on, the Beecher Capital Projects Committee. And I don't know whether they have weighed in on this particular item. I know that there's,
We did discuss at our last meeting.
okay,
And one of the things we were interested there is to better understand all the moving parts of the pool operation. So what is coming from the town side in terms of what is the allocation of resources to maintain Brad's work, et cetera. I think John also identified to us that at some point when we have to replace you, that is going to be a difficult thing to do, let's say. So what the building committee wanted to do
does he know something we don't know?
Yeah, I hope not.
No.
All right. It's just hedging. But I would say that the building committee would like to get further information so that we have a clear picture of what costs are involved and what
Okay.
resources. And the other thing we discussed, I think at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, was there is another pool in the community at the JCC, and the use of it, certainly we're hearing an outcry from people who say we need to have a pool in our community, and that's very well understood. So the question of whether we can share that resource, and I can't help but notice also in our packet, the athletic director from Amity is supporting, and I wonder if Amity might want to help us either fund these repairs, locate a pool, maybe they want to build a pool, 10, 20 years from now. I think we should go back to each of these entities and ask. I think we should talk to the JCC, the Woodbridge Board of Education in terms of their space use
Right.
and their use of the pool. And then I think Tony can probably get us some information about what the moving parts of the
I can get the
town-
town's portion. The one that we'd have to work on is the Board of Education and the impact on their budget.
Right, and we also discussed at the building committee, if the Board of Ed wanted to continue Learn to Swim and perhaps use the JCC pool, what is the cost? There's, obviously they're gonna lose some time moving people over with buses, but what's that cost versus staying in-house at Beecher with the pool? So we've asked for some further information, and I think we're meeting tomorrow morning, so.
Oh, okay, so that,
We'll be talking again about this.
any
Is there
thoughts?
Any other
thoughts?
things that we're not thinking of that the building committee should be thinking of?
Anybody have anything? We've got to get more information before, we can't decide this tonight, unfortunately. I don't think we need a lot of data. But I know time is of the essence, so we'll get as much as we can. And you're meeting tomorrow, which is helpful.
Yeah, so, and keep in mind that the building committee doesn't impact the town's operating budget. I don't know that the building committee would make a recommendation about this current year's operating budget. I think that if it turns out that the building committee is not planning to put it in next year's capital and delay the whole thing another year, then it comes, it's a funding request, right?
Correct.
Transfer, so
Yep.
we would entertain that when it comes in, and it hasn't come in yet. so next month.
So if you're interested, right, next month, similar to the barn issue, we would have a funding, this would be a transfer request, probably based on what recreation has identified. And I'll work with John, maybe we can identify just a little more. And what we haven't spent in the pool budget, because we haven't spent any money really on chemicals or custodial services. And we probably won't, it's what, 6-month time frame
Yeah,
approximately?
we
You
spent
probably
hardly
won't
anything.
spend much of anything in this
Yeah.
fiscal year.
What do you
You'll
mean,
have
a
money
six,
there.
what's the 6 months? You mean even
By
if
the
we
time-
started today?
By the
It
time,
would take 6 months to get this
well,
done?
no, we'll have a month, and then you have to decide whether you want us to bid this or not.
Right, okay,
If we bid it, that's another month.
yeah,
Then they have to order, installation,
Yeah,
all
okay.
that. You're looking probably July.
okay.
Well, it seems to me that this is like, similar to the barn. When you talk to the school, Woodbridge Board of Education, they're gonna say, you own the pool. They're not, when it comes to money, everybody wants us to pay it, right? Because now the town owns it, right? So we need to sort those issues clearly, but the other side of it would be, unlike the barn, people who use this pool are getting a resource that we should be getting revenues from. And when I reviewed the revenue side of the pool in the report, it looked like we were very much on the low end on outside revenue coming in relative to other facilities. So we may want to, I don't think the building committee necessarily has to review that, but perhaps.
Typically, the revenues that are either the rental use of the pool and the fees charged for use of the pool are all determined by the Recreation Commission. And I know
Correct.
they've been reviewing that actually some of their recent meetings, and I think there's probably some discussion on maybe some action there, Andrew. Right?
And if the school, I mean, maybe it's worth talking to the Woodbridge Board of Ed, if they view it as our expense, then, what are the educational uses that they have for it? So if it's always our expense, are they going to pay when they use it for whatever they might use it for educational-wise? I think those things should be sorted out before we really get any farther.
Right, so they do have money in their
So
operating
they,
budget?
the way we worked it was
Lifeguards.
many years ago, is, so part of a lot of the pool uses electricity and heat, to heat the water. That's in their operating budget. So we don't charge them to use the pool for their programs. They don't charge us for the electricity. It's kind of silly, we have charges going back and forth, and all we did was spend time figuring out the charges and arguing about the charges, when it's the same, same taxpayers.
So they're not using electricity this year because it's closed.
Right, so they'll have some savings
They'll have some
in their
savings.
electricity. That's a good example, example.
But then we heard the superintendent say they've got another budget challenge that they're gonna try to fund. So we have the cow barn, we have the pool, we have,
The fire,
the fire, yeah.
yeah, fire,
Chief Ross.
equipment.
And potentially special ed cost of features. So we haven't even begun winter yet, so we don't
Yep.
know when it's gonna
Right.
be. Winter is
True.
And we hope no storm on Friday night. They always happen on weekends.
And then Tony, at some point, the Board of Finance needs to be involved in this
Correct.
discussion as well, because they're really holding the purse strings.
That's correct.
Right. They meet next week, we can give them a little.
I'll give them a heads up next week,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me let them know. Okay, so, we'll get some more data and try to
Mhm.
work at it here. Okay, thanks for coming. Okay, next is the Administrative Officer Director of Finance report. A is the monthly report. Tony,
Thank you.
welcome.
There's not much change in the monthly report in terms of the projection from last month. Our interest income continues to do well. Our interest rate is currently at 3.18%, so we've increased again since last month. I'm still holding at about $150,000 surplus there, but we will keep an eye on that for sure. Some of our expenditure areas of concern, we heard some tonight, which is the fire. Really, that's the one that has an impact on the budget. The other two are decisions that you have to make in terms of funding. But the fire one are expenditures for equipment that we use in our operations. Natural gas is one area we have to keep an eye on. Our generation rate was $6.36 per decatherm when we created the budget, not realizing that we were going to be heading into a higher rate environment. We did lock into a rate of $15.59, so it was actually a little less. It had dipped a couple of days before we locked in when we were deciding this. It dipped for a little bit, so we took advantage of that. So that's where we are locked in. So we'll see, based on the severity of the winter mainly is the other input there, to see how that will impact our budget. So that's an area we have to sort of make sure we keep some funding for in our contingency. I try to at least budget the contingency for known items. And some departments may be able to cover, some may not, depending on the, and the other is the fire apparatus, which you heard at the meeting. And finally, the Amity budget, similar to like last month, we will contribute $134,000 less to Amity this year. So that's a surplus in our expenditures. So that contributes to $284,000. So those are the major items currently. Any questions?
Christine mentioned that some funding from Project Choice was coming.
Yes, it's here actually. If you look in the report, I think you can actually see it.
Yeah.
If you go on to.
We normally just.
So it's because it was for a previous year.
Oh, I see.
They can't use it to offset expenditures because the expenditures were in the previous year, and then we receive the money in the following year.
Mm-hmm.
So they cannot take it in to offset expenditures as they had done in the past. So if you look on page 4 of the report, you'll see it says tuition revenue. That's sort of where I cataloged it. The amount we received is $142,610. So that's the amount we received from New Haven mostly for Project Choice. That was from previous years that they finally paid. So right now, it's currently a revenue and it hasn't been budgeted. So I didn't include it in the surplus, because I know they had some discussion about that. But if nothing happens and we don't act on any of that, that would add to our surplus.
Or we could pass it back to them.
Or you can
come to us with a request.
Or you can, if they come to you with a request, you can pass a portion of it to them.
She did say there was gonna be one
whatever.
next month, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Right.
depending
The
on
kids,
what you
the new
decide.
kids, yeah. Okay.
Another request that will come next month.
Beth, I know that related to that issue, there have been some inaccuracies in the town news reported by members of the Board of Education about how the towns handle the money that they return.
For Amity.
From Amity.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was wondering if if you've replied to that
I did in the Woodbridge Town News, in my column.
before it was in your column to reply to the one that was.
Not the most recent one, because it hasn't come out yet.
Oh, the one that hasn't come out.
The one that, a month ago, I did reply 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago when
Okay.
the Woodbridge Town News
All
was,
right.
that it was inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was really kind of struck by the inaccuracies and sort of a lot of the shade they threw onto the reality of what would be their mishandling of their own, I guess, understanding of what they are legally required to do.
Are you asking about if the Amity Board of Ed says?
Amity Board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
implication was that the town has received money back and not used it for education, which may be the case in other towns in our district,
Right.
but is not really the case here. So
Right.
Correct.
maybe we should share additional information because, as far as I understand, we
I have a
haven't done
deadline
that.
for tomorrow, so.
Right, well, they said that we just take the money and then spend it on things
Right.
that was
That's been a
budgeted for
constant thing that
education
they
and that we
continue-
spend it
yeah, right,
randomly, which
right.
is clearly not the case.
Correct.
Right.
But it's not all the Amity board members that are saying that.
No, but it was printed in the town news.
Yeah.
As if, and it didn't say, well, Orange does it this way, and Bethany does it this way. It just was a blanket statement
Right.
saying that the money was returned to the towns, that the towns just used it for whatever they wanted without any consultation,
Correct.
which was completely inaccurate. And they also referred to the obscure law that they found on the books that they had been apparently, in their own estimation, in violation of for 15 years or so. You know, I found that adjective obscure a little bit strange. You know, I mean, there is, I mean,
Yeah, it's right there.
I
in the statute.
suppose all the statutes of the state are obscure if that's your, if
Yeah.
that's your standard that you're applying. I mean, they're either in the statutes or they're not. And I don't think obscure is anything other than them trying to deflect onto the towns any responsibility that they really have for decision-making.
Right.
And I think that also has been part of their, part of the way they've done their budgeting. They just deflect and they say, well, we're not really budgeting, we're, you know, so that was their original rationale for budgeting the way they were. Oh, we're just giving it back to the towns. Doesn't matter that we don't really have a good budget. Our budgeting, as you know, is extremely accurate, and it's
Not
very
only that, but
detailed.
it's transparent.
And it's done with a very sharp pencil.
Everything that we get back from Amity is made
It's booked as revenue,
transparent
and it's
in our
not,
budget.
it's not
So-
budgeted until we've received it. So it's
Correct.
always budgeted for the
That's
next
right.
year.
Correct.
So
Yep.
it just
Yep.
comes back
And
to
you can
us,
see
and
it.
then it is budgeted because, exactly as it is, which is a expenditure based on the taxing of our
And you
town.
can see it in our budget every year.
And we always see it. So I think there's a lot of sunshine on what we're doing
Yeah.
and a lot of shade on what was said in that article.
Right.
And I think that we as a board, or that perhaps maybe it's up to you as a first selectman to reply to that and sort of, you know, put out the correction to their misinformation. 'Cause I don't like that citizens get misinformation and think that that applies to the way that this town is run. So,
Thank
Well,
you.
the good news is they're coming to us with their operating budget request, and we're all going to get an opportunity to talk to them about how they're budgeting.
certainly.
So I think you're right that we want to underscore that we fully support education, and we want credit for fully supporting education. So I think we can make that clear to them.
Okay. What are we up to here? Funding requests?
Funding requests,
Okay,
yep.
great. Thank you. Sorry, guys, I cleared out your ears there with
Oh.
hitting the mic. Oops, okay. First one is
There's only one.
okay.
It's a line item transfer.
A
Talking
little
about
bit
snow.
confused. Hold on. I have funding requests, hold on. Bid waiver. Line item transfer, found it. Okay, buried in the pile here. Line item transfer number 2223-12 in the amount of $17,069. There's a transfer request from Tony to us for additional funds necessary to purchase a snow machine approved in the 2023 capital budget, and there's an attached memo from Adam Parsons. Maybe you want to, it is in our packet, maybe you want to elaborate on that, Tony?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the 2023 budget, the town budgeted $46,000 for a snow machine for the Public Works Department to clean more efficiently the local areas, sidewalks, and so when we had the price of that, it was $46,124. Admittedly, I think the price was probably, because he had requested it the year before, and when he requested it again, it was a few years old, and so the price is now $63,220. So that's just sort of how the price has increased from a few years ago to now. So that's what the request is in order to purchase the machine. If the board wants to purchase the machine. That's the request for an increase to the budget. Adam did have money in his seasonal wage line item, because like a lot of other areas, he had a terrible time trying to find seasonal help this year. And so he had to do with a few less people, and therefore had a surplus in his seasonal wage line item, which is where the money would come from. And so that's the request.
So I'll move acceptance of line item transfer number, back it up, Sorry.
12.
2223-12 in the amount of $17,069, money coming into his account from just a line item transfer. And he says we have money left in this account from 2 of the seasonal employees leaving early this season. So is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion or questions further? Hearing none. All in
So
favor?
they're saying that the original price was 46,000 and the increase was 17,000.
Correct.
Which is way over the level of inflation. How do they justify that number?
So the price was a few years old, and the increase is just basically, you know, the price of the equipment. I mean, other than, you know, it's not, there's no extra items on it or extra attachments or anything. I think the price was probably a few years old, so it's really an increase over several years. It's not just a 1 or 2 year increase. But I would agree it's a significant increase. I would agree.
Yeah, that's 40%?
Yeah.
35%?
Yeah.
I'm glad he was able to find it in his budget,
But
the way things are going.
I understand your concern.
Yeah.
Are there
Okay.
any other vendors who might compete on price?
We can certainly look and see if there's another vendor for that. I know this is a
He says
aggressive
it's
contract that we're using.
Sourcewell, the state,
It's the one we use for the air packs.
Yeah.
For the air packs. Yeah, the air packs. It's a
Okay.
national contract that typically has very aggressive pricing. But, I could certainly.
Is this a, you know, do these things come in different sizes, different scale? Is this just particularly big machine, or is it, does the,
There's a
40%
number of-
does sound like an awful lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of attachments on it. I'd have to ask Adam to have to come to a meeting and answer your questions, if you want,
Well, I mean, if
you have further questions. I don't know all the details on the.
I guess we ought to find out, I mean,
Yeah.
if they were using outdated pricing to begin with,
Yeah.
need to do a little bit better job with the capital, or a lot better job with the capital requests.
Mhm.
Tony, if we approve tonight, can we say not to exceed the 17 with the thought in mind that if everyone can find a cost saving, that we could approve this?
So,
we don't lose the, who knows when snow
so-
is starting, but,
Right, so it's sort of an issue of timing,
yeah. it could
because the
go up
machine, I
instead of
think
down.
there's a, let's say a 4-week, I think it's 4 weeks to get the machine, 4 weeks. So, if we delay it and we miss the season, then, he won't need it until the next season. I mean,
Or we could end up spending for hand shoveling and it could cost us more.
well, right, so currently you have an employee come on overtime and hand shovel, which this would replace.
and how
someone
long
in
has
the
he been
truck.
asking for this?
It's been about 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
So
And
it
it
was
finally
finally
got approved
approved.
in the budget.
Right.
Unfortunately, it was 3 years ask,
Right.
and he didn't think to add it.
Right.
Are we not gonna approve it? I mean, it sounds like we need this.
You can probably get an industrial level snow blower for half the price of that increase or less.
Well, it's
And
up to
how
the
long-
Yeah,
board.
this is like
Right.
something you sit in and,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's not a push behind, it's a, you sit in it.
Yeah, they
and
have
Right,
a
it's got a
It's got a
cab.
thing on the front and it's
And
heated
what
cab.
is
and-
it gonna cost us to send a whole bunch of guys if we don't get it this year? To go out and plow, God forbid, we don't know, if we're gonna have snow at all.
You might not have
And
any
this
snow,
just-
not even use it. I mean,
And this
that,
just does sidewalks, right? That's what it's.
Mainly for sidewalks, yep.
which
that
we have a
we
lot
don't,
of.
that we don't have anywhere in Woodbridge. I don't have a sidewalk, does anybody else?
No, the town does, we have
Yeah,
a
the
lot
town-
of them. They do the fire department, they do the
Right, it's for
animal
the fire
control.
department, for animal control.
Animal control.
Someone slips and falls,
I
They
got it,
do
I got
here,
it.
center area,
But there are, very,
animal control.
Someone slips and falls,
I got
They
it.
do
I got
here.
it.
In the school, yeah.
Quite expensive when you hit your insurance.
Right, yeah. So
we-
these, yeah, and so with the new sidewalks that we're putting in, we're gonna need
Even
more.
more.
Honestly, this kind of price increase right now is something you just.
Look what
You just
happened
live
with
with
that,
it.
look what happened with the
Get used to
historical
it.
society, just the cost of wood.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna get any lower.
Well, it does sound like this, the original request of 3 years ago, perhaps the price was just carried forward, unaware of what increases were going on. Because 40% all at once seems like a
Right.
crazy amount, even though we do have runaway inflation.
And wait for it, if we wait another year, it might even be more. I tend to think that I'd like to approve this, but I'll call the question, and if it doesn't, fails, it fails, so. We have a motion and a second, right, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, thank you, Dr. Lober. All right, all right. A bid waiver, road salt. You
I
have-
agree.
I'm sorry, what?
No, it was just side
Just
comment.
side chatter.
Side
Yeah.
chatter.
Side chatter.
Side chatter, all right.
Another feature of being in person.
I love the company of Morton Salt, who gives us Blizzard Wizard, the sole vendor for treated salt. Tony, maybe you wanna, we just have to vote to approve the bid waiver.
This is a bid waiver,
Once
correct.
you- Yeah, okay,
Right.
so,
It's a bid waiver for treated salt that we use each year.
yeah,
It's the only company that makes this treated salt that Warren likes to use. As a matter of fact, with the use of this treated salt, we don't use sand anymore. We used to use a lot of sand, and now we use very little of this treated salt compared to how much he uses of the regular salt. He actually uses less salt as well. He says that in his memo.
so I'll
And
move,
so it's 93.47 per
Yeah.
ton, and he's requesting, you use approximately 800 tons for the year.
I'll move approval of the bid waiver authorization to purchase 800 tons of Blizzard Wizard in the initial amount of $74,766 from Morton Salt. Is there a second? Any other discussion or questions? All in favor? Thank you, that's unanimous, great, okay. Other?
So there's the snow machine, see it there? It's in bid waiver. So this is to purchase the snow machine
Oh,
off
sorry,
of
you're right.
the Sourcewell
Yep.
contract, which
Okay.
is the source of the purchase. Instead of us going out to bid for one snow machine, the Sourcewell contract has,
This is the thing that we
thousands of
just, this
communities
is the
using
thing
it.
that we just agreed to buy, now we have to approve a bid waiver to
correct.
go ahead
So
and
not,
do
to
it.
not go out to bid for it.
Okay.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bid waiver for getting the machine off Sourcewell. It's a single source bid, correct?
It's off contract.
Sourcewell contract, okay. Is there a second? Thanks, Joe. Any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous, right?
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
no other.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we have on our consent agenda, in your packet, tax refunds, acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's report, the minutes, acknowledge Susan Cassidy's resignation with regret as a town plan zoning alternate, approve dates for the budget meetings, and proposed dates for the board of selectmen regular meetings. Please take a look at the proposed dates for the board of selectmen meeting for next year. We'll be approving them next month. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
David?
Yeah.
No, the other David.
Oh.
You guys can't sit over there like that. David, one, David two.
Well, we could do Jerry, David, Jerry.
Yeah,
David.
okay. Okay, thank you. All right, great. And we move on to item number, oh my goodness. 17?
12.
12. Jeepers. Where is this? Any issues?
Although Although I'd be happy to do 17, yeah, I never seen that, but
Yeah, that's okay.
it's right over executive
I'm getting
session.
there, I'm
There's no
sorry.
17.
Too many tabs here. Not Jerry's fault, my fault. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna turn it again. Bang it, okay. We have a position for inland wetlands alternate to 2025. Is there a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Anne Renee Van Tonder.
Is there a second? Thank you. I noticed she was here tonight with the kids in the beginning. It was fun. Thank you. We have a motion, a second. Is there another nomination?
Excuse me, who seconded that?
Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
I would like to, once again, for this position, nominate Nick Zito, who I nominated the last time. Once again, Beth, to give you an opportunity to make good on your promise to reach across the aisle for governing of the town, and also to address the issue that the DIE committee came up with, the idea that there didn't seem to be a great deal of diversity in political thought within our boards and commissions. And so Nick has been formally recognized by the chair as being eminently qualified for this commission, because he's been nominated 3 different times for boards and commissions and gone through a nominating process with the Republican Town Committee and been found to be an excellent candidate for this position.
Is there a second? Thank you, David. All right. I'll take up the nomination of Henri Van Tonder. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Position is filled. Item 13, town council's report.
But we had 12B,
Oh,
but
I forgot B, government.
I don't think we have any nominees.
We do not have any. Do you guys have a nomination for Gabo?
How about Nick?
Calm.
They don't have a nomination. Item 13 is the town council.
No, he was uniquely qualified because of his particular qualifications.
I have to add something to item 13. I put a note on my agenda. It did not get on the agenda, we don't know why, but it's to add, there's a memo in your packet from our tax collector. Do you understand this? Because I sure don't.
I didn't see it.
Regarding an ordinance to
Oh, yeah,
authorize
we're
the
not gonna,
tax.
we're not doing that, that's for the ordinance.
That's the ordinance committee.
Yeah, don't
Okay, so
forget
we're
that.
not gonna talk about it, or okay, it's just going to.
Just pass through to ordinance
That's
committee.
Goes
probably
right
why
to
I
the-
got, when on
Well,
the agenda,
yeah,
I
well,
take
the
it
board-
off, 'cause it's
It
still
doesn't,
lined
it
up.
doesn't need to come to the board, so ordinance can do their own initiation of,
Jerry and I are gonna argue about this till the cows come home.
I read the charter, Jerry, and if you can find something that I didn't find, let me know.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So with
And
that.
we're meeting next week, is that right, our ordinance?
Yes, the
committee?
16th.
Okay.
Oh, good, you got a lot of stuff to do.
Not a lot of
Okay.
meetings.
So with that, we're up to item 14, executive session and action is appropriate.
No, we're 13A, I think.
13A, discussion of term of appointed members of boards and commissions.
So I just wanted to say very quickly, at the last meeting, I think the board has approved the commencement of elected officials' terms to be January 1 under the new scheme of November elections. I spoke about the appointed officials, and I said the Secretary of State has told me that the legislature did not consider mentioning appointed officials in the statute that they passed. But the Secretary of State treats appointed officials the same way they do as elected officials. So I just want to make it clear that while the board has already approved the elected officials' terms to commence January 1st, that will be appointed officials to boards and commissions will be on the exact same schedule as the elected officials. So I don't know, I don't think we have to have a vote on that. There's nothing down as appropriate action, but if anyone has any questions, let me know, but that's the way the town will proceed.
So the terms will match the Board of Selectmen
Yes,
and the other elected
right, so any appointed official whose term ordinarily would be up June 30th will now go to December 31st and start the term on.
And the 4 years they've only served, 2 years will go to 2025.
Right.
December.
It's 31st, yeah, right.
I think it would make perfect sense, because the incoming board will then appoint those people.
Exactly, that would be the intent. So that's that.
And we could address all that with our charter, correct? So we wouldn't have to deal with this.
So let me just speak about the charter. I know there's been a lot of talk about the charter. The state, the legislature passed a bill in 2015 that requires towns to review charters every 10 years. That 10-year term commences when they passed the bill, 2015. So the town of Woodbridge has until 2025 to review the charter. It doesn't mean you need to take action on the charter, but you have to establish a charter revision commission to look at the charter to see whether it's time for us to make some changes. I know of several non-substantive matters that really should be changed. We're going, a lot of the numbers and the dollar amounts date back 20, 30 years, and it's really outdated. Other things that really should be looked at. And a charter revision commission can make some substantive changes if it wants. There's also a provision in the statute that says a charter revision commission can make recommendations for non-substantive matters, matters that need to be changed without going through the whole process of meetings, go to the Board of Selectmen petitions, and have the charter, the new proposed charter, on a ballot for a referendum. So a charter revision commission can come up and say, instead of $50,000 for the price to sell real estate, maybe it should be $100,000, $75,000, that require a special town meeting. So things like that could be taken care of, but at some point in time, not necessarily now, the board should start thinking about that 2025 date that we have out there. So I just wanted to mention that in full disclosure and transparency.
So Jerry, can it also be handled, the idea of making small corrections like where the terms of office begin, if it's in the code, which is the ordinance, is that something that potentially the ordinance committee could make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen about?
Well, so when this charter revision commission is appointed,
Not so much charter revision commission, but the boards and the appointed boards and commissions, that language, rather than handling it in charter revision, could we handle it in ordinance?
we can't handle it in ordinance, but you would have an inconsistent statement from the charter to the ordinance. The charter would have the old language, the ordinance would have the new language, and it's sort of confusing. So probably to do it properly and thoroughly, it would be to change it as a non-substantive matter to comply with state law, to change the day appointed and elected officials take office. I think that would, and I think that would make much more sense than having two conflicting laws on the books.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good, that's all I have.
Okay,
Except for
so now we're up to number 14.
And if and when, or what you're saying is sometime in the next 3 years, we're gonna have
we can
a
appoint a charter
more
revision.
detailed look at the charter, of a charter
Right.
revision commission
Yes.
or committee or something.
Yeah.
And it seems that that particular committee would need better access to the public than some of the things we've been doing recently. I've felt like some of the actions that we've taken where the public has asked for more public comment, we kind of rushed them off into actual action without giving that time sufficient. So I think we should think about that earlier rather than later, because I know that there's a great deal of interest in the public side about some of the issues of our charter.
Well, I've read about those in the newspapers, obviously, we all have.
Yeah.
So the charter revision statute is very detailed on the steps and the timing that you have to take, and you do have to have public hearing. So that is pretty well contemplated. I don't think it takes 3 years. It doesn't take 2 months. It's a longer process, much longer process than 2
Right.
months. And most of them go at least a year. I know Hamden has been going for 4 years. They just adopted it. So. Got to start thinking about that, yes.
Does it ultimately go to a referendum vote?
Yes, it's got to be
Yes.
voted.
In Orange, they've done it several times and it fails referendum and then,
No, if it fails a referendum, that's the end of it.
yeah.
It's done.
Well, unless there's some things that you really need to change, or like dates and things like that, but you said we can do that.
You could do that without the referendum.
Okay.
Those are the non-sub, the
So
non-sub.
we should
yeah,
clean that up.
right. And our charter hasn't been looked at. I was on the last charter revision commission, I think, which was under when Russ started was around. That's when it was.
90s.
Yeah.
That's,
I think there was
We
another
did
one
one in
after that.
'04.
There might have been one in '04 that I don't think we made many changes.
go
in.
No, we
anywhere.
changed like,
The town clerk
some of the,
made-
funds transfer stuff.
Yeah,
and stuff
Yeah.
like
but I
that.
think we did it used to be, the Board of Finance used to be elected, the town clerk used to be elected. We did those
That
under
was
Russ
before that,
started.
yeah, that was
Russ
That
started
was
actually
before, that was
wanted
back
to
in
make
87.
sure
Yeah.
that those were appointed positions rather than elected positions. Russ started with the Republican for selectman for many, many years.
Interesting.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
Back to today.
Sure you all. That's it?
That's it.
For executive session. Okay, we have item 14 on the agenda, executive session and action is appropriate. I gotta read them all, right?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session. Invite in Finance Director Tony Genovese and Town Council Terry Weiner for pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-206-1-210. What is that, a B9? I gotta get new glasses.
B, it's probably a B.
B9, agreement
Yep.
between Woodbridge Board of Education and Woodbridge Teachers
Is
Association.
there somebody from the Board of Education gonna be here on that, or no?
No.
No? No, okay.
No, she sent it to us and asked the board to look at it, and if you had any comments or questions,
Okay.
right? That was it, right, Jerry? There
Yeah,
was
the
nothing?
letter is under her
Right.
section in the
Right.
packet.
Right. We didn't know whether it was executive or not, so we put it in executive session.
I did speak with the secretary today, she got back to me and she said that simply that this was not to be posted.
Okay.
Okay.
Second item to be discussed is pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, 6B and D, 60 Woodfield Road. Next item is pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, 6B, Siting Council Cell Tower, 118 Newton Road. Discussion of the court decision. Item D is pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, 6B, 118 Deer Run Road. Discussion of court decision. Item E, pursuant to Section 1-200, 6B of the Connecticut General Statutes, discussion of pending litigation, Open Communities Trust LLC et al. Versus the Town Plan and Zoning Commission of the Town of Woodbridge. And lastly, item F, pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, 6C, security devices related to dispatch, an update from Selectman Paul Kiriakos. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on any of these? Hearing none, we'll be in executive session as soon as we ask our folks to turn off.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay,
Aye.
thank you. Thanks, Pua.
Sure.
Anyway. Say when? Thank you. We're now out of executive session. There were no motions made nor votes taken during our executive session. And we've discussed all the items listed, and there is, I will entertain a motion regarding item 14B related to 60 Woodfield Road in Woodbridge. And we gotta have somebody make the motion.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the town attorney to receive property as detailed on the map that was submitted for 60 Woodfield.
And it's for no consideration. We will be receiving approximately 8,000 square feet of a property adjacent to the Country Club of Woodbridge and adjacent to 60 Woodfield Drive.
Is there a second? Thank you. Joe's got a second. Any further discussion on it? Call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I think that's everything. And we'll make a motion.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Sheila, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
And it was unanimous.
Yeah.
Motion adjourned.
Jerry, before you leave, I have another matter I wanted to run by.
Unanimous consent, we're adjourned.